So let him do it. And keep talking normally. He tends to be a bully once in a while, and don't lose your cool when you have a bully in front of you, unless you grab him by the neck, as I had to do at one time.
Former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien referring to the old Shawinigan handshake that he is best known for giving, and also giving his own advice to the leaders ahead of the next week's G7 summit happening in Kananaskis, Alberta. Now, as Prime Minister Chrétien did host the G7 summit twice during his tenure, and he points out that U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to be a major X factor this time around, although I don't know that it's going to devolve into fisticuffs. We'll ask the front bench in just a second. So what's at stake for Canada next week, and what expectations should Canadians have for an outcome? Let's bring in our front bench, former BC Premier Christy Clark. She's now senior advisor with Bennett Jones. Tony Clement, he served in senior roles in Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper's cabinet. He's now CEO of Tony Clement International. And former NDP MP and BC Minister Nathan Cullen. He's also here. He's now the senior advisor at Strategy Corps. Thank you all for being here. I'm not going to get into whether or not somebody should get ready for the Shawinigan handshake, because I think that that's probably passé. But Christy, start with you on this one. Kind of managing the expectations now, it seems that Prime Minister Mark Carney is saying, don't expect a joint communique. I mean, do you think we're doing this because of the people around the table or because of the times?
I think it's both. But can I just say, Mike, I have Mr. Chrétien once gave me the Shawinigan handshake just to show me exactly how, and I'll tell you, that guy has the grip of Satan. It's unbelievable. I still have marked on
in jest,
and a very memorable
What was the
picture.
situation where this was taking place?
Yeah. If nobody minds, I'm gonna, and I don't mean to jump in on you, Christy, but I'm assuming in jest as a playful thing, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. No, he called me over and said, "Hey, do you want the Shawinigan handshake? You know, I'm going to show you how this works if you want to be premier." And so that's what he showed me how to do it. I've never tried it on anybody else. Yeah. Although I want to do on my son many occasions, I have to say. In terms of the G7, I think it's good. You know, it's just such difficult times. Everything's so unpredictable. The world economy is just still trying to find its footing after Donald Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, and it's done so much to destabilize all of our trading relationships and our supply chains around the world. I think there'll be some real focus on that. I think, though, it's very difficult, though, for them to come up with any really clear solutions out of this, because nobody really knows what Donald Trump's going to do next. Although I do think the G7 is going to be a really important opportunity for people to talk about collaboration, to talk about how we will work together. From Canada's perspective, it's going to be, are we open for business again? Yes, we are. Do we want to export our resources around the world and create stronger trading relationships? Yes, outside the U.S. Yes, we do. And do we want to work together on improving our defense cooperation amongst democratic countries around the world? The answer to that, I think, will be yes, too. So don't underestimate how much work goes around the edges of these kinds of events. I've been to a bunch of them, and those relationships are what really are the enduring outcome from this. I'm not sure the communique is the most important part.
And maybe it isn't, Tony, but by the same token, this departure from this kind of tradition and maybe signals you know what, we can't get everybody around the table to agree all the time. And maybe it is kind of insulating themselves as well from that moment that we remember in 2018 and that iconic photo that, you know, everybody basically said, hang it in the Louvre, is, you know, Donald Trump sitting there with his arms folded as Angela Merkel is sort of standing over him trying to explain something to him. Like, do you think we're just trying to avoid that type of moment, or do you think it's just an idea that, you know what, there's so many people around the table that let's just everybody agree on some things, and we don't have to have everything set in stone here?
Yeah, I actually think that it's better this time than it was in 2018. Donald Trump didn't like Angela Merkel. Well, Merz is around the table. He seems to like Merz from Germany. Seems to like Starmer from the UK. So, and Japan as well. So and dare I say, Mark Carney. So I think that maybe they're lowering expectations. There may well be a communique. I don't know. But if there isn't, there's going to be a lot of violent agreement over some major issues, which is a good sign because, as we know, Donald Trump always comes in not getting along very well with the traditional American allies. But I think when you look at the personalities around the table, and the G7 and the G8s before it were all about personalities as well as politics, I think that bodes well.
Nathan, how much pressure is on Mark Carney to make sure that as we emerge from this, that there are no eruptions following it, that essentially it's a do no harm type of summit?
I don't know how much he can be held accountable for the actions of someone like Donald Trump. I mean, he's hosting the meeting. He's setting the agenda. There's nothing on the list that most people would say is a problem or not important. Yes, they're probably trying to avoid, I don't know if that was art-worthy, that picture. It looks surreal, frankly, to many of us, that this is actually happening. The global leaders of the world are gathered around this petulant man who won't sign on to a statement that wasn't even all that controversial. But we know this president loves the theater. He loves stirring things up, even in the midst of really important conversations that matter. We saw this with Zelensky, where Trump sort of offhandedly said, this is going to be great TV. Forgoing the idea that you are speaking to somebody who is under attack from a foreign invader and all the rest, that leaves many of us as former political leaders gassed a bit, right? Like, this is serious business. So the expectations are lower. I don't think most Canadians care one way or another generally about these joint communiques, but it does represent, were you able at least to agree on things in basic principle without a lot of details? But Christy's right. If good relationships are made, that's positive. I'd say the main effect, though, of Trump attacking all of these former allies, Canada, Europe, etc., is it's pushing us closer together on things like trade and on defense and other things. I don't think that was his intent, but I think moments like G7, does Trump come and throw a fit or not? Sure, it matters, I guess, but mostly I care, how are we talking to Europe? Are we getting along better with Asia? Are we reaching into South America and other places to expand our opportunities, not so fixated on one man's disruptions or whatever you want to call them these weeks?
Yeah, and Christy, I guess that's why the pluses, and not to say plus one, but it feels like it's, G7 plus 7 or 8 now. I guess that's why those are all the more important now, and having those people around the table, not just Ukraine, because some of those meetings on the margins will be so important.
Yeah, they will be. I mean, there's never been a time where the Western world has been so vulnerable to foreign interference. I mean, you certainly see the hands of hostile nations all over the internet, causing all kinds of disruption in Canada, in the separation debate, in Alberta, for example. So we really need the sane, civil, democratic discussion in the Western world to come together. For the first time in a long time, the United States is going to find itself on the sidelines of that. But in the long term, I think it's good for Canada because we need to step up and we need to find ourselves back toward the top of the world order, a country that has an influence and a country that's multilateral rather than unilateral, which is I sort of, in a way, based on our trade patterns, we've really just fallen into the bad habit of thinking we can depend on the United States to make sure Canadians have a good standard of living. It's not enough. And this G7, I hope, will really signal for the world that Canada's back. We want to be a part of something bigger, and we want to be open to something more than just being a junior trading partner to the United States.
Christy raises a challenging.
We're going to leave that here.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Nathan, if you can make it in 10 seconds, because I got to take a quick break. India
is obviously going to be proving an interesting and challenging visitor, both domestically and for foreign interference that we've seen. So that's one moment of challenge for Mr. Carney, for sure.